Hey guys, I'm Jared, and today we're talking about what's new in board gaming as of February 3rd, 2023. I'll be covering the latest news, announcements, most played games, hot new Kickstarters and crowdfunded games, and more related to board gaming for the past 2 weeks. At the end, I'll also be sharing what's going on behind the scenes with my YouTube channel, Meeple Mentor. So stick around, we've got a lot to cover. Leave me a like and comment on what kinds of updates that you want to hear more about. To make sure you don't miss my news updates, new video tutorials, and our podcast episodes, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and your preferred streaming platform. Let's get started with some crowdfunding. Hnaftl, Return of the Viking Tales is on GameFound until February 17th. Hnaftl is a game that, often translated as King's Table, began in Scandinavia over 1600 years ago. The original concept is for one player to be king, but the Viking Tales has been expanded to include a 4-player version. It still preserves the simple rules, one king or player commanding an army of 7 warriors with the intent of capturing opponents' pieces. Hnaftl, Return of the Viking Tales is for 2 to 4 players ages 3 and up and plays in 30 minutes. Batman Escape from Arkham Asylum provides a semi-cooperative dungeon crawler for 1 to 5 players. Play against the Caped Crusader and collect items to advance in your objective to defeat the boss and escape from Arkham Asylum. This game provides a 90-minute playtime of survival, exploration, and action with a little humor thrown in. It's intended for ages 14 and up, and it's funding on GameFound until February 7th. Explore an enchanting world, learn magic, and craft potions in Witchbound. This open-world, story-driven game sees players fighting monsters and discovering secrets about becoming the first witch in over 100 years. It's a solo play experience for ages 8 and up that features resource and dice management and a narrative RPG setting. Playtime is 30 minutes. You can back it on GameFound until February 23rd. Andromeda's Edge, a long-abandoned sector littered with the remnants of the precursor civilization. Ancient technology and forgotten secrets are waiting to be rediscovered, but many starships have journeyed here and vanished. Resource management, worker placement, and area control are the key components in this 1 to 5 player game. It's for ages 14 and up, plays in 2 hours, and it's funding on GameFound until February 23rd. Take control of one of 6 unique robot intelligences as you try to uncover the secrets of Celestium in Scrap. Scrap is a sci-fi game for 2 to 4 players. It features 6 highly asymmetric factions, a unique programming action system, area majority, hand management, and a thematic luckless combat system. This deck builder is for ages 14 and up and plays in 90 minutes. You can back it on GameFound until February 28th. Moving over to Kickstarters, players can explore a post-apocalyptic saga with the giant insects in Once Upon a Line, The Butterfly's Breath. The world's first scratch-off adventure game is a narrative and immersive campaign. As heroes of the story, you will search for words hidden under a scratch-off grid and try to thwart a tragedy. Deduction and avoidance of traps are necessary to complete your quest before time runs out. It's for players ages 14 and up and plays in 120 to 180 minutes. It's funding on Kickstarter until February 3rd. If a cooperative card game of coordinated cat coaxing sounds like a good time to you, check out Hissy Fit on Kickstarter. In this game, you and your partner are humans trying to get your cat into the carrier, but be careful, the ornery felines could send you to the emergency room. Guide the cat along the path and into the carrier with treats, distractions, and strategies. It's for 1 to 4 players ages 8 and up and plays in 20 minutes. You can back it until February 6th. Worker placement fans rejoice. Arborea is a new Euro game with shared resource tracks set in a mystical world. Like Autobahn, Arborea is part of the Alleycat Advanced Games line. The longer you leave your worker traveling down a track, the more rewards you reap when you recall them. Interaction with other players includes avoiding pushing tracks with other workers on them or grouping them together to gain from each other's track movement. Gain points by generating resources for others or plan ahead to gain everything you need in one turn. Arborea is for 1 to 5 players ages 14 and up and plays in 90 to 120 minutes. It's funding on Kickstarter until February 9th. Create masterful films with the other members of your film studio in Hollywood 1947, a movie-making game of strategy and deception. Beware of spies slipping propaganda into your movies, putting your studio in danger of being shut down. This social deduction and light strategy game is for 1 to 9 players and plays in 20 to 40 minutes, and you can back it on Kickstarter until February 16th. An all-new standalone expansion and reprint of Aegis Combining Robots Season 2 is on Kickstarter until February 17th. Build your team, unite their power, and fight to victory in furious tactic battles. Build teams of 5 robots and duke it out in competitive grid and dice-based combat. Choose from over 100 unique options across 5 classes: Assault, Evasive, Guard, Intel, and Support. The game is for 1 to 6 players ages 14 and up, plays in 25 minutes to 2 hours. Marvel United is breaking through the multiverse, bringing with it heroes from alternate realities, galactic villains, and new rules. Marvel United Multiverse is on Kickstarter until February 8th. Build your team of heroes from all realities and join forces to thwart the master plan of the most powerful villains across all timelines. With your special equipment at your side, even the biggest obstacle can be toppled. Simple rules, deep strategy, easy setup, quick playtime, variable difficulty, eye-catching artwork, and amazing character pieces, all united to bring you the most fun Marvel play experience. Ballads and Tales is a nostalgic dungeon crawler with creative adventures and lovingly designed components. At the core of this solo to 5-player game is an action-packed combat system, creating a very special experience thanks to the tactical possibilities it provides. This game is immersive with beautiful art, magic, and fantasy, and it plays in an hour. It's for ages 14 and up, and you can back it on Kickstarter until February 19th. A party card game with a goal to be unique is named as such. Unique, a game in which each card has a different question, increases with difficulty as the player count rises. The goal is to be the player with no cards left in hand. The cards are trivia-based, ranging from common knowledge to obscure facts, and participants must answer correctly or draw from the draw pile. 2 to 6 players, ages 10 and up, and you can expect a 15-minute to 120-minute playtime. It's funding on Kickstarter until March 12th. Are you looking for an easy-to-learn, hard-to-master strategic board game? Trolls and Princesses is based on the Scandinavian troll legend with a humorous twist fused in. Lead a clan of trolls into victory over your opponents in this worker movement game. Collaborate with your opponents while trying to get the biggest advantage of the situation. It's for 2 to 4 players ages 12 and up and plays in 90 to 120 minutes. You can back it on Kickstarter until February 17th. Zoo Vadis and Gussie Gorillas are 2 wildly clever games of trading and negotiation. Zoo Vadis is a game of zoo animals politicking their way up the species exhibit ladder in order to become the zoo mascot. It's for 3 to 7 players ages 10 and up and provides a playtime of 20 to 40 minutes. In Gussie Gorillas, players must blindly negotiate using prized goods embedded in their primate fur. It's for 3 to 10 players ages 8 and up and plays in 20 minutes. You can back them both on Kickstarter until February 16th. Can you prepare your country for war in a dice management game? Manhattan Project War Machine sees players working to create the perfect machine that creates as many resources for the war effort as possible. It's for 2 to 4 players ages 14 and up and plays in 45 minutes. You can back it on Kickstarter until February 14th. Perdition's Mouth Abyssal Rift is a rondel-based dungeon crawl that embraces the Euro design with clever, elegant mechanisms and emphasizes strategy while minimizing luck. There is a strong emphasis on cooperation and a need for tactical planning in a fast and brutal environment that requires careful use of the hero's diverse talents. The heroes also have flaws, which add extra complications. It's for 1 to 6 players, and today is the last day to back it on Kickstarter. Next on Kickstarter is a compelling dark fantasy adventure card game, Catharsis Saga's Nocturne, which features dice-activated abilities, deadly encounters, and boss fights. Catharsis Saga is a solo game box, but if you own the base game or any other sagas, it can be played up to 5 players. It's funding on Kickstarter until February 16th. If you're looking for a roll and write game that serves as a cooperative adventure into monsters, myth, and madness, Roll for Great Old Ones may be for you. 1 to 4 investigators are up against ancient evil powers, finding necessary clues and fighting cultists. Based in the Cthulhu mythos, it's for ages 14 and up and plays in 60 to 90 minutes. You can back it on Kickstarter until February 7th. Sharks is a game about sharks eating whatever they find in the ocean. Swim through the ocean, take tile actions, and score points for the contents of your shark's stomachs. 2 to 4 players ages 8 and up can expect an hour playtime. It's funding on Kickstarter until March 2nd. Build your kingdom and overcome relentless swarms of dragons in Alinthia. It supports 1 to 5 players in cooperative or competitive play. Either unite to free Alinthia from the dragons or compete against your fellow guild members to become the new ruler. Choose your own path through the research track to become a warrior, builder, or more, or create your own mix of strategies. It's for ages 14 and up and plays in 30 minutes per player. You can back it on Kickstarter until March 2nd. Geronimo, do you like lemmings? Do you like challenges? Geronimo is a 2 to 4 player game in which you will have to test your skills to make your secret lemming the first to fall into the void. Follow the directions on the cards to advance or backtrack your lemming, and the first to jump off the edge of the table wins. It's for ages 8 and up and plays in 5 to 20 minutes. It's funding on Kickstarter until March 2nd. A food chain trick-taking game for 2 to 6 players of any age is on Kickstarter until March 2nd. Bring fork to your game table and set up your food chain. The suits are fox, owl, rabbit, and kale. Easy to learn and fun to play, games last around 20 minutes. 10 Tricks brings Tetris to the tabletop. Your objective is to place your polyomino pieces correctly, following the direction of the cards, without being eliminated. Elimination comes in the form of hitting the limit bar. You may also gain effect tokens that will grant you benefits and interfere with your opponent's plans. It's for 2 to 4 players ages 8 and up and plays in 30 to 45 minutes. You can back it on Kickstarter until March 2nd. Dados Dichos is a spin on classic push-your-luck dice games where the mechanics are familiar to many and accessible to all. The aim is simple: roll and reserve the highest number possible on each die in the set. The higher your rolls, the lower your scores. After 5 rounds, the lowest score wins. It's on Kickstarter until March 1st. Search for animals that were previously believed to be extinct in the follow-up to the award-winning Search for Planet X, The Search for Lost Species. Travel around an island to survey for wildlife using the companion app. Use surveys and logic rules to report and confirm wildlife sightings. Record your findings and deduce where the lost species must be. It's for 1 to 4 players ages 13 and up and plays in 60 to 75 minutes. It's funding on Kickstarter until March 2nd. In Microbots, you and an opponent pilot laser-armed robots battling until only 1 bot remains. It's a dueling game of robots with big lasers that fits in a mint tin. Choose your bot and develop its powers, outplay your opponent, and go head-to-head in a 20-minute gaming experience for 2 players. You can back it on Kickstarter until February 23rd. Getting into the industry news, Fun Again Logistics and Fun Again Distribution will be closing its doors on April 30th, 2023. Fun Again Logistics is a merged company that resulted from Fun Again Fulfillment's purchase of Ship Naked and Hit Point Sales back in 2019. After a little over 3 years in business as Fun Again Logistics, the company is closing its doors on April 30th. The decision to close the business was a result of operational costs weighing on the business's ability to move forward. They will accept orders until February 10th and will continue to fulfill all pending projects in their warehouse, projects en route to their warehouse, and orders from their web store until March 3rd. The company also requested that their existing clients make other arrangements for their fulfillment and storage needs ASAP. Night Models has picked up the Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon licenses to make new tabletop miniatures games in 2023. There is no word on a specific release date. The Game Manufacturers Association announced that they have elected a new board member to fill Frank West's vacated publisher-director seat. Frank West left the board in November 2022 and stepped down as president of the GAMA board after serving only 3 months in that position. The seat will be filled by Jason Matthews of Fort Circle Games. Matthews' experience in the games industry ranges from being a freelance game designer to serving as a board member of the Dietz Foundation. One of the execs behind the upcoming screen adaptation of Terraforming Mars has revealed some of the other board games that he hopes to turn into a movie or TV series. Arkham Horror, the Cthulhu adventure game that spawned an eponymous series including a living card game, Eldritch Horror, and Mansions of Madness, and hit strategy board game Scythe are on the wish list, but Clank is at the top of said list. Skybound Entertainment, best known as the company behind behind The Walking Dead and Invincible, has begun a crowdfunding equity raise seeking up to $75 million from investors on investment platform Republic. The investment units in the LLC are based on a pre-funding valuation of $500 million, so the investors putting up $75 million would collectively own 13% of the company if the full amount is raised. If the company raises less than $37.5 million, it will not pursue the spending on executive compensation or original TV production. Serge Laget, the French board game designer whose credits include Shadows over Camelot, Nidavellir, and Mystery of the Abbey, has died. Laget made his board game debut with 1984's La Gang de Traction et Vente, co-designed with Alain Munoz. The gangster-themed bluffing game went on to win the Board Game Design Award Concours International des Créateurs de Jeux de Société and kickstarted Laget's design career of almost 40 years. CMON has acquired Super Fantasy Brawl, Enchanters, and Steam Watchers brands from Mythic Games. CMON will continue to publish the existing titles while seeking new products which can be created using these IPs. Super Fantasy Brawl is designed by Joshin Eisenhuth and is a fast-paced brawler series which raised over $1 million on Kickstarter. Enchanters, designed by Rafał Sivwicki and Jacek Gelblowski, has been running since 2016 and has gameplay often compared to the digital title Hearthstone. Steam Watchers is a newer property designed by Marc Lagroy, which is an area control game set in a post-apocalyptic frozen Europe where players must survive an ecologically ravaged wasteland. Publisher Monolith has additionally acquired Solomon Kane and Reichbusters from Mythic Games. Both of these properties are planned to be developed further by Monolith. A digital adaptation of Calico, an award-winning puzzle game for 1 to 4 players, was developed by Monster Couch and recently released on the Steam PC games platform. If you're a fan of the tactile physical version of the game, then the digital version adds a different level of immersion. The growing quilt bends under the weight of paws and loud purring can be heard. Cats are active during the games and respond to what players do. Each have their own character and allow players to interact with them. They will observe the board, walk around, and fall into blissful naps. If that's not enough, the game even supports customization and that you can design your own cat and name it and change the background of the game along with different quilt patterns. Hasbro will lay off approximately 1,000 employees, around 15% of its global workforce, after a disappointing Q4 the company just announced on Thursday. The layoffs will begin within the next several weeks, according to the announcement. Asmodee will release The Werewolves of Miller's Hollow: The Pact, an updated deluxe edition of the classic party game, into retail February 10th. This box collects the Werewolves of Miller's Hollow's base game and its 3 expansions into a single deluxe master set. The game is for 9 to 47 players ages 10 and up and plays in 40 minutes. Gen Con's 2023 tabletop convention, held in Indianapolis, Indiana, will not require attendees nor exhibitors to wear masks and provide proof of COVID-19 vaccines. The organization behind the long-running convention released a statement earlier this month announcing the registration dates and badge prices for its 2023 convention, but tucked below was confirmation that Gen Con would drop the health and safety precautions it had previously upheld for its event in 2022. The developer and publisher behind Unmatched Digital Edition, Akram Digital, has created a video game version of Stone Age. Stone Age Digital Edition will adapt the 2008 board game into a video game. The short trailer for the digital board game features a virtual recreation of Stone Age's gameplay, with players taking control of a tribe of prehistoric people going about their everyday lives. Throughout the game, players will be able to collect various resources for their tribe, rolling a pool of dice to determine how much of each resource they're able to gather. The digital version of Stone Age will be released on multiple platforms, including PC, Mac, Android devices, and the Nintendo Switch. Catan Console Edition, the video game version of Catan, is set to be released on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series S, and Xbox Series X at the end of February. Both standard and deluxe edition of the digital board game are planned, with the deluxe version featuring 5 board layouts taken directly from real-life playthroughs of Catan from the Catan World Championships competition. GameFound has increased its overall revenue by 45% over 2022. Despite the success, GameFound founder Marcin Swikart has admitted that the total revenue collected over 2022 ended up falling short of the company's target goal of $67.5 million, which is about 25% of the revenue collected by Kickstarter's tabletop gaming campaigns during 2021. As a result, Swirecott has set the target revenue for GameFound campaigns to gain in 2023 to $50 million, which is just about over a 50% increase on the revenue generated from the previous year. According to Swirecott, crowdfunding campaigns for the likes of Elden Ring, the board game, The Last of Us, Escape the Dark, and Slay the Spire, the board game, all underperformed last year. Alderac Entertainment Group, AEG to most of you, has decided to go public with play testing for the newest expansion for Space Base, which has a working title of Genesis. In a forum posting on Board Game Geek, John D. Clare, designer of Space Base, Mystic Vale, and Ready Set Bet, has provided a downloadable PDF file that contains the rules for the expansion, as well as artless versions of new cards. I want to also mention there's a huge controversy right now in Dungeons & Dragons, but I will talk more about that in a special news video. Next, let's look at newly announced games and expansions coming to retail. 2 new Marvel-themed board games are set to be released by publisher WizKids, one from the co-designer of Lords of Waterdeep and the other from the creator of Rap Gods. Marvel Age of Heroes is an upcoming board game created by Rodney Thompson, a co-designer of Lords of Waterdeep, a board game set within the iconic Dungeons & Dragons city, as well as other D&D board games such as the deck building game Tyrants of the Underdark and Dungeon Command Sting of Lolth. The other Marvel-themed board game set to be released by WizKids is Marvel Damage Control. Designed by Omari Akil, the creator behind the storytelling card game Rap Gods and the 2-player board game Hoop Gods, Marvel Damage Control presents players with the unique tabletop game premise of managing a cleanup crew for the Marvel superheroes. Marvel Age of Heroes is set to be released sometime in Q1, and Marvel Damage Control's release date is yet to be updated after being slated for a Q4 2022 release. Lorcana is a new trading card game from the massive entertainment company that claims to meld the collectability of its iconic characters with gameplay that will satisfy veterans and newcomers. While we still don't know much about the mechanics behind Lorcana, a press release has provided details on what the initial set, called The First Chapter, will contain. Disney's Lorcana's The First Chapter will be available in the US, Canada, UK, and several European countries such as France, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg in August of this year. Local game stores in the US will begin selling boosters, starter decks, and other products on August 18th, beating out the mass retail release planned for September 1st. Defenders of the Wild was unveiled at PAX Unplugged from publisher Out of Order Games. Parks and Cosmoctopus designer Henry Audubon and T.L. Simmons. As one of 4 unique factions, you'll lead animal heroes to resist a monstrous army of machines. The machines will enclose habitats, build factories, and send out attack units, while the players must endure the assault, heal the land, and outsmart their enemy. The game can be played cooperatively, all united to defend their lands, or competitively, with each faction also working to complete their own objectives first. Defenders of the Wild will play 1 to 4 players in around 45 to 90 minutes. Defenders of the Wild should come to crowdfunding later in 2023. Linvander Studios will release Minotaur, an 8-bit side-scroll inspired cooperative game, into retail February 2nd. In this retro-style game, players have entered the labyrinth to retrieve magic medallions and are met with a series of challenges to overcome. They've been sealed into a maze that changes with every step they make. This game is for 1 to 4 players ages 14 and up and plays in less than 60 minutes. WizKids has announced the Marvel HeroClix Avengers 60th Anniversary Booster Brick to celebrate 60 years of Avengers comics. The new set will release on June 7th. Drawing on the group's storied history, the Avengers 60th Anniversary set will include a total of 60 figures representing not only heroes like Captain America, Iron Man, and Black Panther, but also villains the Avengers have faced, including Hydra, the Thunderbolts, and the Masters of Evil. The set will also feature all new team-up cards for the villains and new legacy cards that bring Avengers from the past into the game. Alderac Entertainment Group will release Rolling Heights, a new meeple building game, into retail on March 10th. In this game, players place stacked meeple buildings across a 1920s neighborhood map. They place standing meeples, which work hard during the day, as well as provide special actions and building materials, while the face-down meeples placed add no bonuses. The goal of the game is to complete buildings and gain prestige for building them. There is also a push your luck element to the game, involving dice rolls and resources to create the buildings. This game is for 1 to 4 players ages 14 and up and plays in 45 to 60 minutes. Rio Grande Games announced Leaders of the New Dawn, a Beyond the Sun expansion, coming early 2023. The new expansion continues the story of the search for worlds to colonize. It picks up in the year 2246, where the discovery of hyperspace has renewed a sense of purpose across the solar system. The factions in the game once again need to position themselves to find and groom leaders with the skills they need to take advantage of the opportunities presented again and race to colonize the galaxy. This expansion and the core game support 1 to 4 players and plays in 45 to 90 minutes. Smirk and Dagger will release Behexed, a new deck building game, into retail April 19th. In Behexed, players take on the roles of battle mages, flinging arcane magic and curses at one another in combat. It is an interactive card game where players need to battle their opponent by casting spells on them, all while avoiding letting their magic get beyond their control, as cards are often double-edged swords. This game is for 3 to 5 players ages 14 and up and plays in 45 to 90 minutes. Asmodee and Repo Productions announced Seven Wonders Edifice, a new expansion, for release on February 24th. The Seven Wonders Edifice expansion adds 15 new communal edifice projects to the mix. Players can either join in to build the edifices or ignore them to pursue personal glory. If they complete an edifice, the players who worked on it will gain the rewards from their efforts. The expansion also adds 2 wonders to increase the replayability of the core game. This expansion supports 3 to 7 players with the base game, and it's for ages 10 and up and plays in 30 minutes. Asmodee has also announced Caverna Frantic Fiends, the second big expansion to Uwe Rosenberg's award-winning game Caverna the Cave Farmers, to be released February 24th. In Caverna Frantic Fiends, orcs are invading and players have some choices: send their armed dwarves into battle, bribe the invaders to go elsewhere, or build traps to keep the orcs from their cave entrances. Because it is a game, players gain rewards for success or suffer the fate of the orcs as the price of failure. They will need to discover a good strategy for this threat or struggle to survive. Caverna Frantic Fiends is for 1 to 7 players ages 12 and up with an average playtime of 90 minutes. They also revealed Setup, a tile-based rummy game by Betzerwizzer Studio, for release into retail on April 1st. In Setup, players combine suits and numbers on tiles to earn points. This is a tile placement game where players build the combinations of tiles in any direction. They can even stack tiles to disrupt an opponent's game plan. It is a fast game with multiple game modes that is sure to be a hit with rummy enthusiasts. This game is for 2 to 4 players ages 8 and up and plays in 25 minutes. Zygomatic and Asmodee will release Timeline Twist, a new cooperative card game, into retail in the spring. Timeline Twist is a new addition to the Timeline series of card games, where players would attempt to accurately place different historical events, inventions, and discoveries in chronological order. This game is for 2 to 6 players ages 8 and up and plays in 20 minutes. Asmodee Studio Lookout Games will mark the 15th anniversary of Uwe Rosenberg's farming game Agricola with a deluxe $140 version. Good news for anyone who has tried to repack their copy: the deluxe reissue contains an organized inlay for quick setup and repacking, as well as a box for the card deck, all within a redesigned box. Evolution New World sends players through the story of how animals develop and evolve. It is a science board game created by Dimitri Noor, PhD in biology, that simulates the evolutionary process across an entire ecosystem. Players will utilize hand management mechanics to create animals and give theme traits to help them survive the changing environment. The game takes place over the course of 6 epochs where the fittest species survive and the least adapted species go extinct. Crowd D Games will release Evolution New World and Evolution New World Butterfly Effect into retail on March 7th. This game is for 2 to 4 players ages 11 and up and plays in 30 to 60 minutes. Ravensburger announced the Lord of the Rings Adventure Book game, a new storybook-style game which will hit retail in August after an initial exclusive release through Target in February. In this game, players must work together to deliver the One Ring to Mount Doom and destroy it before Sauron's shadow consumes Middle-earth. They will help the Fellowship get from the Shire to the Fires of Mordor, all while avoiding the Eye of Sauron. The Lord of the Rings Adventure Book game is suitable for 1 to 4 players ages 10 and up, and each chapter plays in 20 minutes. Hasbro and Funko Games have teamed up to bring Cranium 25th Anniversary Edition to market. Cranium had a successful run selling its flagship party game through 2008 when the company was bought by Hasbro for $77.5 million. In Savernake Forest, the animals gather and store food for the winter. Players help the animals gather and store food as they build their own section of the forest with paths where animals and food will appear. Players strive to have animals collect their favorite food on each path. This drafting, pattern building, and tile placement game supports 2 to 4 players aged 10 and up and plays in about 30 minutes. If you've ever grown bored of the smell of your standard playing cards, then maybe it's time you tried playing cards that smell like fried chicken. There was a recent Kickstarter run from Hong Kong by a company called MPC where they created 1,000 playing card decks depicting fried chicken and sporting a matching smell. While the Kickstarter campaign has ended, there's still an opportunity to place late pledges if you're interested on the campaign's website. Inside Job has players taking the roles of secret agents as they work together to complete their missions. The trouble is there's an insider hiding amongst them seeking to sabotage and collect secret information along the way. This 3 to 5 player game is billed as mostly cooperative trick-taking, which plays in roughly 20 minutes. A 2-player variant is included. Iki Akibono is an expansion to Iki and introduces a new location to discover in Edo, Japan. The Bridge of Nihonbashi expands the main street and offers players new opportunities where they can stop at the bridge and meet famous personalities from the Edo era. Iki is a rondel, pattern building, and set collection board game for 2 to 4 players ages 14 and up. Pegasus Spiel will release Dorfromantik, a cooperative board game based on a popular German video game, into US retail in March. The video game Dorfromantik is a city-building puzzle game published by Tucana Interaction for Microsoft Windows and the Nintendo Switch last year. The new board game mirrors the video game mechanics as a tile placement game where players cooperatively create hexagonal village landscapes. They score points for completing tasks assigned by residents, and the goal of the game is for players to accumulate as many points as they can while unlocking more landscapes to build their world. This game is for 1 to 6 players ages 8 and up and plays in 30 to 60 minutes. Gigamic will release Galapagos, the Big Box, a new big box edition of the cooperative game, into US retail on April 30th. In this game, players take on the roles of survivors washed up on a desert island where resources are scarce. The only way to escape the island is to build a raft before a hurricane hits the island and wipes the survivors out. Players will need to fish for food, venture into a dangerous jungle to get raft materials, and swim out to reclaim some of their sunken ship's cargo. However, as the hurricane gets closer, players may need to vote other players off the island in order to survive. Galapagos, the Big Box, is for 3 to 12 players ages 10 and up and plays in 20 minutes. This fall, Portal Games will release Imperial Miners, a game by Tim Armstrong, the creator of Orbis and Arcana Rising. Set in the same game world as Portal's Imperial Settlers, but completely standalone, Imperial Miners is an engine-building game about digging for precious materials. Each player uses cards to construct their own mine, delving deeper with each card play. Every card has an effect, and when a player activates a card, it also triggers all of the cards above it in a chain reaction. The game is intended for 1 to 5 players. Exploding Kittens announced that they will release an English language version of Top 10, a party game, into US retail in 2024. In this party game, players are all on the same team and are tasked with submitting answers to questions and then ranking the answers by how likely they are to fulfill the parameters of the question. Players are secretly told where the ranking of their answer to the question should fall, and collectively the group attempts to match up their rankings with the secret rankings to win. This game is for 4 to 9 players ages 12 and up and plays in 30 minutes. Flat River Group will release King of Tokyo Even More Wicked, a new micro expansion for King of Tokyo, into retail February 17th. This expansion allows players to add a wickedness gauge to any of the King of Tokyo games and then gain wickedness points for various die rolls in-game. The points are tracked and monsters gain access to different special tiles based on the points they accumulate. Along with the base game, this mini expansion supports 2 to 6 players, ages 8 and up, and plays in 30 minutes. Capstone Games announced La Familia, The Great Mafia War, a new board game which is currently on pre-order. In La Familia, The Great Mafia War, teams of players battle each other to take control of Sicily during the Great Mafia War of the 1980s. The players have 6 different mafia families at their command, each of which has its own special abilities. Game rounds consist of a planning phase where players develop abilities, recruit fighters, and issue secret orders, and a combat phase where the action goes down. The goal of the game is to dominate the island of Sicily. This game is for 4 players and plays in 120 minutes. Stonemaier Games announced Tapestry, Fantasies, and Futures, the final Tapestry expansion, which is coming to retail a few months after a March fulfillment of DTC pre-order. This expansion allows Tapestry players to build civilizations using fantasy and sci-fi inspired civilizations, technology, tapestries, and cities. The expansion is fully compatible to combine with other expansions and the core game. It can support 1 to 5 players ages 14 and up and plays in 90 to 120 minutes. Stonemaier Games will also release Expeditions, the sequel to Scythe, into retail in August. Scythe's sequel sends players off on an expedition to Siberia where a meteorite has crashed near the Tunguska River. The meteorite has awakened a long dormant corruption, and the expedition led by Dr. Tarkovsky heads off into the taiga forest to discover its impact on the land. The heroes from the war also privately fund their own expeditions to Siberia in hopes of finding artifacts and achieving glory. The sequel is a card-driven, engine-building game where players utilize cards to gain power, guile, and add worker abilities. They will explore the land by moving their mechs to different locations to acquire cards found among the tiles, use workers, items, meteorites, and quests to enhance your mech, and ultimately vanquish the corruption that plagues the land. It is for 1 to 5 players ages 14 and up and plays in 60 to 90 minutes. Hachette Board Games USA will release Vivarium, a set collection game from Studio H, into US retail in Q2. The Vivarium Syndicate was established in 1898 to send explorers to a newly discovered continent. In Vivarium, players take the role of scientific explorers who are tasked with discovering these new life forms. Each turn, players use dominoes to create coordinates that allow them to build their card collection. After 7 rounds, the player that has successfully completed their objectives and collected the greatest creatures wins the game. Vivarium is for 2 to 4 players ages 10 and up. The newest entry in the Istanbul series is a choose and write board game that combines worker placement with roll and write elements. Istanbul Choose and Write is a newly released board game set within the same universe as the original 2014 tabletop title, but features a selection of mechanics inspired by the roll and write genre. In the game, players become merchants looking for financial success in a classic Turkish bazaar. The goal of Choose and Write is to collect as many rubies as possible by traveling through the bazaar and performing various actions in order to acquire resources. In Gardeners by Sit Down Games, players take on the role of gardeners who are tasked with arranging the garden of a fickle and capricious king. This is all done as a silent cooperative game. Gardeners is designed by Casper Lapp, known for Magic Maze, with art by Anthony Mullins. The game supports 1 to 4 players aged 10 and up and plays in 15 minutes. Leader Games, publisher of beloved games such as Root, Fort, and Vast the Crystal Caverns, have announced the first expansion for their 4-time Golden Geek Award winning game Oath, Chronicles of Empire, and Exile. The expansion has yet to be given a name or release date. The expansion is going to include a new deck of cards that players can either add to their existing deck or have it replace the existing deck entirely. It adds new areas that have wilder abilities and effects, making these areas more chaotic without increasing the complexity of the game. In Deities, players are ancient gods who are both feared and revered by a young civilization and trying to help them thrive and prosper. The goal is to surpass the other deities who want to share in the glory to become the highest deity. Deities is published by Mandu Games, designed by Gary Kim, known for Rising 5, Runes of Asteros, with art by Laura Bevan, known for Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig. The game supports 2 to 4 players, aged 14 and up, and plays in 45 to 60 minutes. Deities had a limited release at Essen 2022 and is expected to be more widely available in 2023. Let's talk for a bit about what's happening on the Meeple Mentor YouTube channel. First, did you know we have a Patreon page? It's available for fans of the podcast and channel to pledge as a patron and support us here. There's various pledge levels for small monthly support that helps grow the channel's content. You can get access to new content early, you'll get to vote on new game tutorials that come out on the channel, and more. Head to Patreon at patreon.com/MeepleMentor. Recent unboxing videos on the channel include Zabarius and Carnegie. We did a review of the polyomino game Arial and an off-the-shelf video for Just One. Keep an eye out for the next tutorial, which will be for the new trick-taking game American Psycho, A Killer Game. Thanks for tuning in to today's news update. I appreciate your support. And remember, teach when you can, but always be learning. See you next time.